It's Dr. Anamul Haq. Today I'm gonna present the intrauterine fetal assessment. During labor, three important factors actually compromise the fetal outcome. Number one, uterine contraction. Number two, cord compression, and number three, the head compression. The first one, the uterine contraction. Due to uterine contraction, what happened? The deoxyhemoglobin level of the brain increases and oxyhemoglobin level decreases. As a result, cerebral oxygen saturation decrease up to 9%. But due to compromised condition, the cerebral blood flow increases. In spite of this slightly boring picture, nothing harmful effect happen if fetus is healthy, the labor contraction are normal, and the placental reserve is good. But fetal distress is likely to occur if the fetus is already compromised and even with normal uterine contraction. Secondly, if uterine contraction are exaggerated even with healthy fetus and adequate placental reserve, the fetal distress can happen. Cord accident due to uterine contraction, what happened during labor, cord may be compressed or there may be cord presentation or cord prolapse and entanglements of the cord can happen. And head compression, some degree of head compression is inevitable during labor, and excessive compression over long period causing supermolding as like obstructed labor, so that can cause fetal hypoxia. So during labor, the method of fetal assessment is clinically like auscultation with the ordinary stethoscope. Second one is cardiotocography. Third one is to see the fetal skull pH. And lastly, the fetal pulse oximetry is the method. So the aim of monitoring during labor is to detect the early stages of hypoxia or acidemia, so therapy can be directed to prevent asphyxia and asphyxia damage and to improve perinatal morbidity and mortality. With this close monitoring, we can reduce 50% neonatal seizure, but no difference in incidence of long-term neurological handicap or perinatal mortality. Another important thing, due to close monitoring, what happened, we can optimize the obstetric outcome, but there is a chance of 66% increase in cesarean section rate and 16% increase in instrumental delivery due to close monitoring actually. That is why CTG should be reserved for high risk pregnancies, not all pregnancies, because unnecessary close monitoring increases the cesarean section rate and the instrumental delivery rate. So CTG should be reserved for high risk pregnancies only. So what is the indication of fetal assessment during labor? If you have the like the fetal risk factor like intrauterine growth retardation, oligohydramnios, preterm labor, multiple pregnancy, breech presentation, RAC isoimmunization, abnormal fetal Doppler velocimetry, and some maternal risk factors like pregnancy-induced hypertension, diabetes, PROM, post-dated pregnancy, antepartum hemorrhage, and previous cesarean section. And some condition when the low risk changes to high risk, like when you get the meconium stain liquor, or you are getting abnormal fetal heart rate like bradycardia or tachycardia, when there is a maternal pyrexia during labor, during augmentation or induction of labor, and if you see the fresh blood in labor, so that can change the indication of close monitoring. So the first one is CTG. CTG means cardiotocography. As you know, the cardio means heart and toco means uterine contraction. Graphy means graphical presentation. So CTG means this is the graphical presentation of fetal heart in relation to uterine contraction. So this is the CTG or cardiotocography, and the machine called cardiotocograph. Someone sends electronic fetal monitoring also it called. So CTG is the graphical presentation of the fetal heart in relation to uterine contraction. So CTG are two types: the external monitoring, when the fetal condition is monitored by external probe. Here you see there are two the contraction or two probe. One probe that is placed over the fundus of the uterus. This monitor the uterine contraction. This is the contraction monitor sensor. And another probe placed over the fetal heart, where the maximum intensity of the fetal heart rate is audible. In that places that fetal heart rate sensor is placed. So two sensor, one for monitor the uterine contraction and second for the monitoring the fetal heart rate. The uterine contraction sensor placed over the fetal fundus to monitor the uterine contraction, and the fetal heart sensor placed where the fetal heart rate is audible. This is the external monitoring. And in the internal monitoring, when the membrane is ruptured, the two probes are inserted within the uterine cavity. One probe that placed over the fetal skull, that electrode monitor the fetal heart, and another pressure catheter, intrauterine pressure catheter, that placed within the uterine cavity, that monitored the intrauterine pressure and uterine contraction. This is the internal monitoring, internal CTG. And that's the machine. Machine has the monitor and the paper comes. So what I'm saying, that it has two sensor probe, one for uterine contraction and one for fetal heart rate. And some old machine has another probe that actually for monitoring the fetal movement. This is the fetal movement probe, that patient hold the probe, and when she feels the fetal movement, she presses the probe. But recent machine, the machine can automatically detect the fetal movement. So recent machine does not have the third one. So this is the paper of the CTG that you can set manually, like you can set 1 centimeter per minute or 3 centimeter per minute. Most conventionally say you can place it 1 centimeter per minute. Here what happened, the basic thing is 3 small vertical spaces per centimeter, and the 10 bit means one small space equivalent to 10 bit. This is the basic of CTG. And this is the CTG tracing. In a CTG tracing, you see the two part. The lower part is showing the uterine contraction. These are the uterine contraction, and the upper tracing showing the fetal heart rate. So the upper tracing is the fetal heart rate and lower tracing is the uterine contraction. So in a CTG, the basic thing of the basic pattern is it is baseline fetal heart rate and variability, and the periodic changes is acceleration and deceleration. So what is the normal CTG? The normal, it is called normal when the baseline fetal heart rate is 110 to 160 beat per minute, and the variability 5 to 15 beat per minute. There is acceleration but no deceleration. So this is the normal CTG. And the interpretation of the CTG, we called it reassuring, non-reassuring and abnormal. If we called reassuring, if fetal baseline heart rate normal, that is 110 to 160 beat per minute, variability normal, that is 5 to 25 beat per minute, there is no deceleration, and there may or may not be acceleration. So this CTG is reassuring. But if one reassuring feature is present, like there is a baseline bradycardia or tachycardia, variability reduced, there is early deceleration or typical variable deceleration but no acceleration, then it is called non-reassuring CTG. And CTG called abnormal when heart rate below 100 or over 180 beat per minute, variability loss, there is late deceleration or atypical variable deceleration, and no acceleration, that's called abnormal CTG. So you know the baseline heart rate is the reflection of the body regulatory mechanism like sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. As you know, the sympathetic activity lowers down the fetal heart rate, and parasympathetic activity lowers down the fetal heart rate, and sympathetic activity increases the heart rate. There is a chemoreceptor. When acute fall of oxygen, then parasympathetic activity activated, so fall of heart rate. And when the chronic fall of oxygen saturation, then sympathetic activity rises. And when the blood pressure changes, then baroreceptor activated. If hypertension, then parasympathetic activity activated. And if hypotension, then sympathetic activity activated. That is why increases the blood pressure. And this is the baseline heart rate. You see the baseline heart rate in a picture. So baseline heart rate, normal 110 to 160 beat per minute. It is called bradycardia when baseline heart rate less than 110 beat per minute, and it is called tachycardia when it is more than 160 beat per minute. So this is the baseline heart rate. Here you see the baseline heart rate in between 110 to 100 beat per minute. So this is the normal baseline fetal heart rate. So when the heart rate less than 110 beat per minute, it causes bradycardia. The most common causes of bradycardia when gestational age is more than 40 weeks and there is a cord compression or congenital fetal cardiac anomaly, or when mother is in drug like benzodiazepine, drug in mother in sedation, that causes fetal heart rate down. And this is the bradycardia. Here you see fetal heart rate less than 110 beat per minute, here up to 90, it is 100 to 90 beat per minute. So this is fetal bradycardia. And the tachycardia, when the heart rate is more than 180 beat per minute, this is called tachycardia. The causes of baseline tachycardia is excessive fetal movement, maternal stress and anxiety, gestational age less than 32 weeks, maternal pyrexia, fetal infection, chronic hypoxia. So this is important. When you are getting isolated baseline tachycardia, you should think this type of causes. And this here you see, this is the baseline tachycardia, the fetal heart rate here more than 150 beat per minute. So this is fetal tachycardia. Now the variability. The variability is the baseline fluctuation of the fetal heart rate. This is in between two cycles. This is beat to beat variation. In between the beat, the baseline oscillation of the heartbeat is called variability, because due to sympathetic and parasympathetic activity, there is a baseline oscillation of the fetal heart rate. This is the variability. Here you see there is a baseline oscillation of the heartbeat. It is beat to beat variation is called variability. And variability, most important features of CTG, and it is the best measures of CNS oxygenation, and absent variability indicates central nervous system hypoxia. So it reflects competing acceleratory and decelerating CNS influence on the fetal heart rate. So the variability is the most important feature of CTG. And the baseline variability normal, the 5 to 25 beat per minute. It is called increase when more than 25 beat per minute, and it is called reduced when 3 to 5 beat per minute, and absent when less than 3 beat per minute is called absent. Sometimes it's called short-term variability and long-term variability. Short-term variability likely in a scalp electron using scalp internal monitoring, and long-term variability if defined as 3 to 5 cycle per minute. So it's a long-term variability. Here sometimes it is divided into no variability when it is less than 2, and minimal variability it is 3 to 4 beat per minute, moderate variability 11 to 25 beat per minute, and its marked variability when more than 25 beat per minute. These are the types of the variability. So increased variability indicates that a condition of acute hypoxia, and decreased variability cause are like when fetus in sleep condition or maternal sedation like pethidine or sedative benzodiazepine, gestational age more than less than 30 weeks, and severe hypoxic baby showing the decreased variability. When fetus is in sleeping condition, you will see the decreased variability. This is the sleeping CTG. So in a sleeping condition, fetus can show this type of CTG, and this is normal actually. And sometimes the baseline heart rate may be sinusoidal. A sinusoidal pattern means this is smooth undulating sine wave pattern, an amplitude of 10 beat per minute in cycle of 2 to 5 per minute, lasting at least 2 minutes, and here variability absent. This actually indicates the fetal anemia, hydrops or fetomaternal hemorrhage, but maybe terminal pattern of severe hypoxia. Here you see the baseline fetal heart rate is like sinusoidal. This is called sinusoidal. It's like snake pattern. So this is the typical sinusoidal pattern of baseline heart rate. It indicates fetal anemia. And now the acceleration. Acceleration is the transient increase of fetal heart rate, that is more than 15 beat per minute and persisting more than 15 seconds. This is called acceleration. So the normal acceleration when the gestational is more than 32 weeks, the acceleration should be more than equal 15 beat per minute and above baseline and persist more than 15 seconds. And when gestational is less than 32 weeks, it should be 10 beat per minute, more than 10 beat per minute, and more than 10 persisting more than 10 seconds. This is the normal acceleration. But in a normal CTG, you must have at least 2 acceleration in 15-minute period. And when CTG is present means it is always reassuring when present, and in a sleeping condition may not occur when the fetus is sleeping and should occur in response to fetal movement or fetal stimulation. So here you see with the uterine contraction there is increase of fetal heart rate that is more than 15 beat per minute and persist more than 15 seconds. This is acceleration. Here see there is uterine contraction and the increase of the fetal heart rate. So the uterine contraction, increase of fetal heart rate that is more than 15 beat per minute and persist more than 15 seconds. This is acceleration. And now the deceleration. Deceleration is just like opposite of the acceleration. Acceleration is the increase of heart rate. Deceleration is the decrease of heart rate. The decrease of heart rate more than 15 beat per minute and just persist more than 15 seconds is called deceleration. We divide the deceleration 3 types, and early deceleration 4 types: early deceleration, late deceleration, variable deceleration, and prolonged deceleration. So this is the early deceleration. The deceleration, that's a decrease of the fetal heart rate that occurs with the uterine contraction. That means the peak of the uterine contraction coincides with the nadir of the fetal heart rate. So gradual decrease in fetal heart rate with the onset of deceleration to nadir more than 30 seconds, and nadir occurs with the peak of contraction. So when the peak of the uterine contraction and the peak of the fetal heart rate deceleration coincide, this is called early deceleration. So here you see the contraction, with the uterine contraction, the decrease of the fetal heart rate. So the peak and nadir is coincides. The peak and nadir is coincide. This is early deceleration. So early deceleration indicates the fetal head compression. And the late deceleration. Late deceleration, when the decrease of the fetal heart rate occurs after the uterine contraction, and when the uterine contraction passes off, then it gradually returns to baseline. That's the late deceleration. Gradual decrease in fetal heart rate with the onset of deceleration to nadir more than 30 seconds. Onset of deceleration after the beginning of the contraction, and nadir occurs after the peak of the contraction, and return to baseline after the end of the contraction. So after the uterine contraction starts, and when uterine contraction passes off, it returns to baseline. This is called late deceleration. Here you see the uterine contraction, where there is a peak of the uterine contraction, then starts the deceleration, decrease of the fetal heart rate. When the uterine contraction passes off, then it returns to the baseline. So this is the late deceleration. See, here you see the uterine contraction, then it starts. This peak and nadir does not coincide. So it comes after the uterine contraction and return to the baseline after the uterine contraction passes off. So this is the late deceleration. Now see the difference between the early deceleration and the late deceleration. The upper one, you see with the uterine contraction, there is a deceleration. This is early deceleration, but when the deceleration occurs after the uterine contraction, this is late deceleration. The causes of late deceleration is the reduction in blood flow, that like placental abruption, maternal hypotension, excessive uterine activity, and placental pathology also, like diabetes mellitus, preeclampsia induced hypertension, renal disease, and compromised fetus like intrauterine growth retardation, prematurity, Rh negative, twin transfusion syndrome. And late deceleration, with the late deceleration, if there is no variability, that's the ominous features. Here you see there is uterine contraction with the late deceleration and no variability. So this is very ominous, and immediate delivery is the indication. So variable deceleration. Variable deceleration is the deceleration that is variable in size, shape, and onset. That means the deceleration that may comes before, with, or after the uterine contraction, and that deceleration vary in size and shape. That's called variable deceleration. So the variable deceleration, the cause is cord compression, like cord around the neck, a true knot, or prolapse umbilical cord. Here you see there are multiple deceleration. Each deceleration is variable in size and shape, and some deceleration comes with the uterine contraction, some deceleration comes after the contraction. So there is a variation in the size, shape, and onset, that called variable deceleration. And the prolonged deceleration is the late deceleration, which is prolonged. That late deceleration longer than 90 seconds but less than 5 minutes is called prolonged deceleration. That means the deceleration that comes after the uterine contraction, but when the uterine contraction passes off, it never again to the baseline. That's the prolonged deceleration. Here you see there is a deceleration starts after the uterine contraction, but uterine contraction passes off, but the fetal heart rate does not come to the baseline again. So this is the prolonged deceleration. The causes of prolonged deceleration is the cord compression, maternal hypotension, uterine hypertonia, vaginal examination, and artificial rupture of membrane. Okay, now what is the normal CTG again? When this is the normal, we called the CTG is normal when baseline fetal heart rate 110 to 160 beat per minute. Variability more than 5 beat per minute, that is 10 to 25 or ideally. When at least 2 acceleration present and there is no deceleration, this is called normal CTG. So they just analyze this CTG papers. Here you see there are multiple acceleration of the heart rate with the uterine contraction. Here the fetal baseline heart rate 110 to 120 beat per minute, and variability is here 5 to 10 beat per minute. There is no deceleration and there is some acceleration with the uterine contraction. So this is normal CTG. This is the CTG of twin pregnancy. Here the upper two tracing showing the two fetus heart rate tracing and lower tracing is the uterine contraction. So you just remember that this is the twin pregnancy CTG. So interpretation of CTG we call is normal when the all four features like baseline fetal heart rate, variability, acceleration and deceleration. There is acceleration but no deceleration, then it is called normal CTG. And CTG called suspicious or equivocal when one reassuring features, and CTG called abnormal or non-reassuring when two or more non-reassuring features present. So when you are getting CTG reassuring is normal, that's mean the CTG always reassuring? Yes. When you are getting CTG normal, that means it is reassuring. There is only 1.5% chance of fetal hypoxia. But when you are getting non-reassuring CTG, that is always worrisome? No. Because more than 60% of CTG, you can get at least one abnormal features. This is normal. And only 15 to 20% of non-reassuring CTG are pathological. And there is a high false positive rate. Therefore, when you are getting non-reassuring CTG does not mean that it is always abnormal or worrisome. So you have to re-evaluate everything like fetal condition, maternal condition with other methods. So CTG non-reassuring does not mean that fetus is actually compromised. If CTG is abnormal, then what you have to do, you have to evaluate clinically everything. So what is the indication of the CTG, like maternal indication or fetal indication? You have to assess both maternal and fetal condition strictly. Then you have to assess the fetal maturity. Then you have to examine the maternal pulse, because if mother is taking any drug, that drug can cause maternal tachycardia or bradycardia, then ultimately cause fetal bradycardia or tachycardia. And you have to assess maternal blood pressure also, because maternal hypotension can cause abnormal CTG. So always consider what is the posture or position of the mother during labor. If mother is in supine condition, that causes supine hypotension syndrome, that can causes abnormal CTG. So it's better to provide the posture of the correct posture, like left lateral position is the correct posture of the mother. So posture is important. Second is you have to assess that whether there is any congenital fetal malformation like cardiac problem, fetal cardiac problem. And third, you have to assess the stages of the labor, because you have to deliver the baby according to the stage of the labor and according to condition of the fetus. So when you getting the CTG suspicious, you can continuously monitor with the CTG, that is continuous CTG. You can detect whether fetus is getting better or worse. Or if you have other option, like if you have fetal acoustic stimulation, fibroacoustic stimulation process, or if you can have the fetal blood sampling facilities or scalp stimulation process, you can apply this technology. Or if you can do the ARM, artificial rupture of the membrane, and see the stain like a condition. If it is meconium stain, then you can decide to deliver the baby. And the management of when you are getting abnormal CTG, you have to correct the reversible causes, like you have to change the mother position, and you have to give oxygen. You just put oxygen by mask, 100% oxygen by mask, then give IV fluid for correcting the hypotension of the mother, and stop oxytocin or vaginal prostaglandin, for which you have given for induction or augmentation. That's the general or basic management of the, if you are getting the abnormal CTG. And mind it that variable deceleration means cord compression, early deceleration indicates head compression, and late deceleration indicates placental insufficiency. So now let's do some exercise. Here you see the CTG paper that's showing baseline heart rate. That's showing baseline heart rate 130 to 135 beat per minute, variability around 5 beat per minute. There is no deceleration, but some acceleration is present. So this is the normal CTG. So you can proceed to normal level. So here only you see that variability around 5 bit, a little bit low, so reduce variability, but otherwise all features are normal. So you can call it normal CTG, though variability a little bit low, but other feature, as there is no deceleration and acceleration is present, so this is normal CTG. Here you see the baseline heart rate 100 to 100 beat, 110 beat per minute, variability here 5 to 15 beat per minute, normal, no deceleration, but some acceleration is present. So the baseline heart rate here is low, otherwise there is no variability, normal, no deceleration, and there are acceleration, so this is also normal CTG. Only some bradycardia is present. Fetal baseline heart rate is 110 to 100 beat per minute, but otherwise it is normal, so this is normal CTG. This is only isolated bradycardia is present. Here you see the baseline heart rate 190 to 200 beat per minute, and variability also reduced, less than 5 beat per minute, no deceleration, and here the actually on examination found maternal pyrexia could be responsible for fetal tachycardia, diminished variability fetal hypoxia. So you have to start the management of the patient. You have to change maternal position, reassess maternal temperature. If pyrexia is evident, infection must be considered and appropriate treatment initiated. Fetal blood sampling is contraindicated in view of maternal pyrexia. Delivery should be expedited. So this is the management option here. So this is the reduced variability and tachycardia. So this indicates fetal hypoxia. And here you see the variability loss, and fetal heart rate is 160 beat per minute, and variability little or non-present. There is no acceleration, no deceleration. In view of reactive CTG prior to analysis, observe in these cases actually observe for further abnormalities. If pattern persists for longer than 40 minutes, fetal blood sampling is indicated. Here what happened, they observe cervical dilatation 6 centimeter, and then again they recheck. They check the patient in the second stage of labor, and after 8 hours later spontaneous vaginal delivery occurs. So though there is the baseline heart rate is more and loss of variability, no acceleration, no deceleration, they only monitor the patient. They found the CTG now reactive, so they continue the labor though there is no variability, but ultimately the patient delivered vaginally. So you have to correlate everything clinically. Only the isolated factors abnormal, like here only you see the heartbeat is little bit more or reduced variability, but there is no acceleration and no deceleration. In spite of that, this CTG is normal, and ultimately patient delivered vaginally. So here is the only loss of variability. Here you see the baseline heart rate 140 to 140 beat per minute, and variability 5 beat per minute, and there are early deceleration, acceleration also present. So this is the actually scenario of the head compression. So you have to change the maternal position and observe CTG again. Here this monitor and second stage of the labor diagnosed, and patient commenced pushing, and then but no progress made, so they did forceps delivery as the labor is not progressing. So this is the typical picture of head compression as there is early deceleration. So this is a typical head compression as the labor is not progressing smoothly, then they did forceps delivery. This is the early deceleration. Here you see this, there are multiple deceleration that commencing after the contraction, and the here baseline heart rate 160 to 165 beat per minute, and their variability external recording, the variability less than 5 beat per minute. There are multiple late deceleration. So this is the picture of fetal hypoxia. So they started change fetal maternal position, give facial oxygen, vaginal examination to assess cervical dilatation, and commence intravenous fluid. If cervical os not dilated, consider induction of labor or cesarean section. What they did, they observed the cervical 5 centimeter dilated, then they do artificial rupture of membrane, fresh thick meconium stain Leica they observe, then fetal scalp electrode applied, and that depict late deceleration, so they decide for cesarean section. So this is the typical picture that they found fetal heart rate is more, they found multiple late deceleration, they do ARM, then they see Leica is meconium stain, then they do fetal scalp pH, fetal scalp electrode, then they again do CTG that depict late deceleration, then they decide cesarean section. This is the ideal management of the abnormal CTG. So this is the late deceleration, and here you see the baseline heart rate 155 to 160 beat per minute, and variability less than 5 minutes, no deceleration but multiple variable deceleration. The deceleration are variable in size and shape, that someone comes before the uterine contraction, with the contraction, and some after the contraction. So there are multiple variable deceleration. This is the typical picture of cot compression. So what they did, they changed the maternal position, record maternal temperature and pulse rate, fetal blood sampling may be indicated if pattern persists, and When they change the position, the variable deceleration reduce, occasional deceleration only, and progress to second stage of labor. And after some while, no progress made with maternal effort. Cephalic presentation still 1/5 palpable, that is no descent. Occasional variable deceleration continue. Then they did emergency cesarean section. So here the typical picture of cord compression, as there is multiple variable deceleration without, in spite of changing the position of the mother, and there is no progress of labor, there is no descent of the fetal height, and there is a reappearance of the variable deceleration. So this is the typical picture of cord compression. So they did cesarean section. And here you see the baseline heart rate 135 to 145 beat per minute. Here variability 5 to 15 beat per minute, and the contraction, the variable, there is a lead, there is a prolonged deceleration, and this is suggestive of possible for placental abruption. So vaginal examination to assess cervical dilation, they change the maternal position, give oxygen, they prepare for delivery. They did actually emergency cesarean section. This is the finding was abruptio placentae. They found retroplacental clot. This is the picture. When you are finding that prolonged deceleration, you must suspect there is abruptio placentae. So the prolonged deceleration. And here you see the baseline heart rate 180 to 190 beat per minute, variability absent, there are multiple late deceleration. So this is the typical picture of fetal hypoxia. And management is change the maternal position, give oxygen, give IV fluid, and prepare for delivery. They did cesarean section. So this is the management of this type of CTG. And this one is the complex, because all the features present here, baseline heart rate is increased, there is the tachycardia, variability loss, and late deceleration present, there is no acceleration. This is the complex picture of the CTG. So this is abnormal CTG. So they decide for delivery which is the earliest, like cesarean section. Here you see the baseline heart rate 160 beat per minute and rising to 180 beat per minute, variability loss, no acceleration, and variable deceleration. Again, this is the picture of actually fetal hypoxia. So they change maternal position, give oxygen, give IV fluid, and consider fetal blood sampling. Here maternal temperature they found 37 to 5 degree, variable deceleration persists with tachycardia, variability improves. After a while they did fetal blood sampling, that pH 7.34, so normal. Then cervical dilation they found 8 to 9 centimeter, maternal temperature now 36.8 degrees centigrade. Then they do CTG as before, repeat blood sampling again it is found 7.35 centimeter, 7.37, so it is reassuring. Again they found cervical dilation 8 centimeter, therefore decision made for cesarean delivery. Though in spite of the though fetal skull pH is normal, but CTG is abnormal, and they found the cervical dilatation is not adequate. There is a prolonged cervical dilatation, so they did cesarean section. So in a CTG, this is also the complex CTG, but the ultimate decision, though fetal pH is normal, but they did cesarean section because there is a poor progress of labor, so they did cesarean section. So this is also the complex CTG. And now see the secondary test of fetal well-being, like vibroacoustic stimulation. This is the artificial larynx used to produce the sound. That sound can actually stimulate the baby. This is basically substitute for scalp sampling when CTG is non-reassuring. and we called it normal when after stimulation with the sound, if you get acceleration on the CTG, this is normal, but no acceleration, this is abnormal. Only 50% have acidic pH. And most important thing is fetal blood sampling. This is when the in a liver, when the amniotic membrane is ruptured, you can collect fetal blood through the fetal scalp with this specialized device. That device can assess fetal pH, blood pH. If pH is more than 7.25, that reassuring, then you can allow the progress of the liver. If pH 7.2 to 7.25, repeat within 30 minutes. If pH is less than 7.2, repeat immediately. And if pH still low, then prompt delivery advised. This is the ultimate decision making for the liver. And you can also apply scalp stimulation here by applying firm digital pressure with the fetal head, or gentle pinch by atraumatic Alice forceps within the fetal scalp. You can stimulate the baby, then you can do CTG. That's the basic of fetal scalp stimulation. And you can measure fetal oxygen saturation by fetal pulse oximetry. It is just like adult pulse oximeter. Here the pulse oximeter actually introduced through vagina. When the amniotic membrane is ruptured, a device is placed within the uterine cavity, over the scalp of the fetus. Then the machine can automatically detect the oxygen saturation of the fetus. That's the pulse oximetry. So this is the direct observation of the fetal oxygen saturation. That's a good device, but here the problem is membrane must be ruptured. Amniotic membrane must be ruptured. So that's all about today's topic. I think you all will like it. Thank you, everybody.